happened to be a cold and a little chilly day, so we put a big pot of pea soup on the stove. And we said, what goes good with some nice hot homemade soup? And the answer came up in our light bulb over all of our heads. And here's our light bulb. Biscuits. And so I have both of my kids here, and they are going to make a batch of biscuits to go with our pea soup. I have my daughter Isa and my daughter Hallie. And Hallie's the really good cook, the one with the, well, they're both good cooks, but Hallie's the one with the cooking blog, The Wordy Baker. So I'm going to go, and they're going to take it away. We've got all the ingredients set up, and they've done this 100 times, so I think they just hand it over to them.
Yep, I think we can handle it.
The oven's on.
The oven's on. We preheated our oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit.
And we washed our hands.
We washed our hands. That's right. That's really important to do because we're going to actually use our hands when we mix our flour and our butter together.
Yep.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So our recipe today is coming from our
well-loved,
thank you, Eve.
Joy of Cooking.
Well-loved copy of Joy of Cooking. This is a classic.
It has stood the test of time.
Yeah. This is a great place to go for basic home cooking. And what we are making today is rolled biscuits. You can also make drop biscuits, which are a little bit different, and we'll talk about the one difference when we get there. But I think we can go ahead and get started,
All right? Yes.
Okay. So, the first thing we did was we don't have any buttermilk, and buttermilk adds like extra richness and flavor to this.
Yep.
So what we did was take some of our regular milk and measure out 2/3 of a cup, and then we added a splash of apple cider vinegar. And so that's what we have in this container right here. And that's just going to sour the milk a little bit, so it'll give it a similar tanginess that buttermilk has without having to go out to the store and buy buttermilk. So, shall we measure our dry ingredients?
Yes. So it calls for 2 cups of cake flour or 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour or whole wheat flour.
And we have both, so should we do a mix?
Let's do a mix of them.
All right.
So we'll do 1 cup of
all-purpose
and 3/4 cup of
whole wheat.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. Let's go ahead, dig in, and we're gonna level off our 1 cup
Very nice.
whole wheat flour. And we're gonna use our 1 cup measure for the 3/4 cup, but not fill it all the way.
That looks like about 3/4 of a cup to me. All right. Yeah.
Next thing we need 1 teaspoon salt.
All right. How about I hold the measuring spoon?
Ooh.
All right. Okay.
And
2.5 teaspoons of double-acting baking powder.
so this is our baking powder. I think Mom has said that you guys talk about baking powder. This is what makes things look really light and fluffy, so it's really important in biscuits because you want them to be nice and fluffy. So we're doing 2.5.
2 1/2.
1, 2, and then I'll switch over to my half. Boom.
All right. We have something to mix this?
Yeah. My fingers.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it's fun to play with your food, but
It's always important to clean up after yourself if you've been playing with your food.
yes. So I'm just giving this a quick mix with my fingers so that I can't see the little salt, I can't see the baking powder.
It's nicely mixed together.
Yes, it looks like it's all one color.
Yeah. You can also use a spoon
Yeah.
or something like
Rubber
that.
spatula.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Even
use
a
your fingers.
fork.
Yeah.
To mix the dry ingredients as well.
Yeah.
If you don't like playing with your food.
If you don't
as
like
much
playing
as-
with your food.
All right, so now we have 6 tablespoons of butter,
Right.
and this is cold butter.
Right, straight from the fridge. So I'm going to cut it into chunks. You don't have to be exact. Just get into slightly smaller pieces. and place them straight into your bowl of flour.
So it's important that it's cold because that's what makes the biscuits nice and flaky.
Yeah. So what we want to do now is break the pieces of cold butter into little chunks that look kind of like cornmeal. So you want to turn your flour and your butter, instead of, right now it looks like two things. There's the flour and the chunks of butter. And you want to make it all look like this pebbly, kind of wet sand cornmeal texture. So we're just using our fingers to get in there and break down the pieces of butter into really small pieces of butter.
And this is something where you really do want to be using your hands. It doesn't work quite as well to use a mixer or anything like that.
No.
And it's easy to over-mix it then.
Yeah.
And you don't get quite as nice, light and fluffy biscuits.
Right, exactly.
Did you want to switch over, Hal?
Sure, I'll do some.
All right.
And there is a tool that's meant for this task. It's called a pastry blender. We can't find ours right now. But I never use one anyway. I always use my fingertips. And you just work the butter for a couple minutes to make that sandy, grainy texture. So we're getting closer, but I've still got some big chunks of butter, and I want to get rid of those big chunks. And you can see I sort of pinch and rub together.
Good technique,
Pinch
Hallie.
and rub together.
Yeah, it really does look like some nice coarse sand, like if you were going down to the beach.
And I can make like, I can take a handful and squeeze it together, and it like sticks a little bit. But it's never going to stick all the way because there's not enough moisture in it. But, ooh, that's our oven.
Yes.
Okay, the oven's ready for the biscuits. So now we just have to add the liquid and shape them and then feed the oven.
All right.
Okay.
So this is our 2/3 cup.
2/3 of a cup.
Buttermilk or soured milk.
Yeah, and if you don't want to do that, you can use regular milk.
All right, and this is when you add the vinegar, it does start to curdle a little bit. You just start to see more, of a thickened texture, and that's totally normal. That's what we want because that's going to help with the flavor and the moisture.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't want to roll your biscuits out and you just want to scoop them onto your sheet, you would be making drop biscuits. And that's exactly the same recipe, but instead of using that 2/3 of a cup of milk, you're going to use 1 cup of milk.
Okay, good tip, Hallie.
And I'm going to go ahead and keep mixing this with my hands. I might switch to the spatula, but this part is easy to mix with a spoon or a spatula if you want to do that.
Right. And I'm just going to take a little clip so you can see kind of what the mixture looks like. It is starting to get more moist.
And flour can be a little... baking with flour can be a little tricky sometimes because it does sort of respond to the weather.
Ooh.
Like, if it's really dry out, your flour is going to be really dry and you might need a little bit more milk.
Huh.
Today, it's pretty wet. So I think we're going to be okay with the 2/3 of the cup that are in the recipe. But sometimes I make this and I have to add a teaspoon or a tablespoon more. Okay, this looks good to me. This is
very sticky.
It's sticky and I can like make a ball with it. So I like to work straight on the cookie sheet that I'm going to be baking. You can do this on your counter and then move them to your cookie sheet if you want.
All right, let me clear off.
Okay, so now that I've got this one big ball of dough, I've got my cookie sheet. Can you sprinkle just a tiny bit of flour on the cookie sheet?
Absolutely. I'm going to go with whole wheat flour.
That sounds great.
Because that's what I see. Okay, and this is just to help the biscuits not stick to the pan. Right, Hallie?
Right. So what we want to do when we put them on the pan is flatten them out a little bit and fold them in half and flatten them out again.
Okay.
And by doing that, we are hopefully going to create a really nice fold so that when we eat them, it'll be easy to break them in half to add butter or honey or jam.
Very nice. I love biscuits with butter or honey.
or jam. And, if you can make it a square, that's easier.
More power to you.
But you don't have to. Ours is pretty blobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. In half. And press it out again. Now, this recipe says it makes 24 biscuits.
Wow, that's a lot of biscuits.
Do not believe that.
That sounds like some very small biscuits.
Yeah, those would be small biscuits. I like big biscuits, so I think we're gonna get 1, 2, 3, 10 biscuits out of this.
That sounds about right.
And I'm going to go ahead and cut this dough with a knife, a sharp knife, so ask Mom or Dad for help. But if you want to, you can also cut out a shape. This is just like a zigzaggy circle shape, but you could do an oval, a
you
square.
Could even do a heart.
You could do a heart.
Whatever kind of
Ooh, that'd be cute for Valentine's Day.
That would. Oh, strawberry shortcake?
Ooh,
that would
yum.
be really nice. All right. But whatever kind of cookie cutter you have.
Yeah. And again, this doesn't have to be a perfect shape. Ours is kind of oblong, but I think we're going to get 10 biscuits out of it. Actually, my hands are really covered in dough. Do you want to cut them out?
Sure.
So, I was going to go half and then 5.
My goodness. I don't know how you would get 24 biscuits out of this.
Yeah, I have no idea. Is that 12?
That's 12.
So we got 12 biscuits. And we don't need to separate them all the way, but I just want to make sure they have a little tiny bit of space. I heard recently that if you keep them close together, they're more likely to rise straight up and down.
Huh.
So they sort of like stick together. If you spread them apart too much, you might get some weird shapes. But just a little tiny bit of space in between is fine. They don't have to be really spread out like when you're making cookies. Okay. These look great. They're ready to go in the oven.
Excellent. Well, my hands are clean.
Yeah, so you stick them in the oven.
I'm going to put them in the oven. All right, the oven is hot. They're ready to go in. Okay, Junie. How long do we set the timer for?
We're going to set our timer for 12 minutes.
Excellent. This is the perfect time to clean up while the biscuits are cooking.
Oh,
wow, Hallie. Sounds like our biscuits might be done.
All right, here they are.
Beautiful.
Yeah, nice and risen. Got a little color on the top, but they haven't started burning yet.
Beautiful.
And you think they're done?
I think they're done.
All right, let's get them out of the oven.
Okay, and it looks like we have some tasty things to eat with our biscuits. So we have some honey and butter, and we have some jam.
Mom, do you want some biscuits?
Ooh, would I?
All right.
All right. So we're just cutting the biscuits with a butter knife to separate them.
Yep. So here we have a finished biscuit. Nice and light and fluffy. Oh,
So you see some nice layers there,
yeah,
too.
if you look real close. And didn't even need to use a knife. Wow, look at all that steam.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you very much for baking biscuits with me, Hallie.
Thank you for baking biscuits with me.
And thank you, girls, for making some delicious biscuits to go with our pea soup. Let's have dinner.
Sounds great.
Bye.
Bye.